Let's hope this works this time.
That sounds better.
Oh, good, good, good. All right. I'll figure out where I am muting. Thanks so much, Laurel.
Jen, you will need to unmute it when you're ready. Okay.
Maybe. Oh, there you
There you
go.
go.
Yeah, I was too high. Okay.
All right. All right, so then we're on number 5 here, federal update.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just quickly, the guidelines for the federal money came out late yesterday afternoon. I've not had a chance to even look at them yet, but they are out, and we should gain half of our 4.2 million this week will be transferred in. So I think we need to have a special meeting, talk about how we're gonna go forward. I suggest we wait till probably 2-3 weeks from now. I'm sure there'll be a lot of internal discussions from MAC and county administrators, how to go forward, everything, and some more dialogue. The summary was 15 pages, not the whole guidelines, just the
geez.
summary was 15 pages. And I really haven't had a chance to go through it, but I think the topic is critical, it's 4.2 million. I obviously need some time to research and read all the guidelines. I think we do need to have a special meeting at some point.
Thanks, Judy.
So if you could think about, I may have some more information next Tuesday night. So today, if you just move this forward, I just want to let you know that the guidelines did come out.
Would you send those guidelines
Yeah.
to us so that we have an opportunity
Yeah, I was,
to review that?
yeah,
And currently, has there been a list started for projects?
no, because I'm getting a lot of calls. I'm saying we need to, see the guidelines first.
Yeah.
And we need to have a dialogue among ourselves, how we wish to proceed. I've been in quite a few dialogues with other county administrators, how they're thinking they're gonna proceed, but it's kind of all, well, everyone's been waiting to see until the guidelines come out.
Sure.
Just glancing through it, I didn't see anything new in the guidelines in terms of what you can't and can do. It's just more detailed.
Yeah, if you'll just send that.
Yeah, I'll send to all of you, but I'm sure there'll be more information coming, but if you just move this forward next Tuesday, maybe next Tuesday, I can give an update and then we can look at a special
Mr.
meeting
Chairman,
date.
so move to next week, move this issue to next week.
Or will it automatically, but yeah. Or if you want to put it back on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'd like to give a,
Support that motion.
what I can do is give at least a summary update and then you can look at a special meeting date.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you for that. And that brings us to planning and community development. We have the recycling agreement here.
Oh,
Hi, Trudy. If I may, start with the.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the agreement between Leelanau County and ERG Environmental Services for a scrap tire recycling program in 2021, not to exceed $10,200. Funds to come from Fund 230 and the tire recycling fees.
Second.
All those,
Trudy, I just have a question in regards to this. Are these two specific sites only?
That's the next.
this first one is what we're calling a community event, so this will be held at Glen Lake School on
Okay.
Friday, June 25th.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure.
And
So
that's-
that's one for the community and one for specific location.
Right.
Okay.
I just had a comment, and I say it every time, but I mean it sincerely, it's a thank you for doing this. We're really one tire at a time, we're cleaning up the county. And I had 2 tires with rims dumped on my farm in past 4, well, sometime over winter, maybe. So I'll add another $2 and I'll bring those too.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's looking good, so I really appreciate it.
all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. And then the next item then is community collection day. Where's that?
Yes, that's a separate contract.
Okay.
I was just looking for the EBS. But I recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve an agreement with ERG Environmental Services for a one-day community scrap tire collection event in 2021 with costs to come from Fund 230 and tire fees, total not to exceed $12,800.
I'll support.
So I would like Trudy to talk a little bit more about why we're doing this separate one and why it's so small.
Sure. So this is something that I thought of a couple years ago, is we're not allowed, when we're using the grants from the state, to address commercial, including agricultural tires. So they can't participate in our program, the first contract that you signed. And we know that we have a lot of piles out there, and some of them are pretty large. So about 2 years ago, we started just sending out the message to the newspaper, to the townships and villages. I contacted zoning administrators, assessors, the fire chiefs and so forth, and trying to identify where are these piles. And then we use a program through the state to use aerials and measure length and width. And then if we can estimate the height, we can figure out approximately how big those tire piles are. And they're always bigger than what the homeowners think they are. So right now we have actually 5 on our list. We got another one today. And what we're doing is just working with these property owners. They will still have to pay a fee just as if they would come to our event, but they're also going to have to provide some labor because these are big piles and they're willing. They want to get rid of the tires. So this is a separate contract with ERG because we won't advertise this. We'll continue to add people to the list. And hopefully with our 2% funds and the tire recycling fees that we charge, we can continue to do this and start whittling away at these large piles.
So I'm absolutely going to support this because as I was telling Jim about this last night, I said, this is really cool because at a limit of, 10 tires per household right now, whoever these people are, I do not know who they are, but whoever they are that had the big stockpiles, they probably inherited.
Yeah.
They would never get to the bottom of those piles with our current regular community tire recycling. So this is a really cool idea. And once again, it's going to do a lot to clean up the county.
You bring up a good point. We have 2 properties right now on our list that they inherited them and they have the piles.
Yeah, I know exactly. I gotta tell you, an official duty as chairman of the board got called out to check the tire fire in Ron a few years back. And that was not a pretty sight to see when that was going on. We don't want something like that here.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Just 2 quick updates. I was notified this morning by the state that we received the tire recycling grant. So that's the 3rd year in a row. We had applied for $4,000. It's not a huge amount, but it does help offset the cost of that community event. So I'll bring that to you as soon as I get it for approval. And then the collection for tires on June 25th at Glen Lake School, we can take a maximum of 1,900 and 2 semis, and we are at 1,000 already registered. So I'm sure that that is going to be a full event.
Is it 26th? Saturday?
It's the 25th. It's
That's
the
right.
day before the hazardous waste collection. They're going to stay for 2 days and hit both of those.
Okay.
Well, I had a question. A person called me about the Leland recycling spot. And they talked about that there was a boat in, I think, the 1980s that said that the parks couldn't be used for, unless it was approved by the people for, other than park and rec. So, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't know if you knew anything about it or heard anything about it.
I'm
Because-
not following you, Mr. Clement.
Well, because, that's, what is it, the improvement pond, recreational area?
Oh, okay, Lake Leelanau. You mentioned Leland. That's
Well, right, it's Leland Township.
Lake Leelanau.
Yeah, but in Lake Leelanau, that's a park. And that's where we're planning on hopefully putting the recycling site.
Right. That was checked out before with the original deeds that were passed, and I did not find, and I don't think the township has found either, that there's any limitation on that.
Okay.
But that would be the township to verify that. They could have some other records I'm not aware of.
Oh, okay. But I mean, if we go through getting it all prepared and, and because we're planning on putting quite a bit of money into that, aren't we?
The actual funding of it has not been determined yet as
Okay.
to who would pay for it or how much it would be.
I just wanted to make sure that.
But going back to that original deed, I don't recall that there was any limitation on how that could be used.
All right, thank you.
Last thing, sorry. Your electronic recycling, is that full
For May,
for me?
May 22nd is full for hazardous waste and electronics completely, but June at Glen Lake School and the other 2 collections are still open.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then we skip down here to number 8, the Grand Traverse Band, now that we're chipping in 2%.
Lance first.
Hi there.
Good afternoon.
So, we coordinate at least quarterly meetings with the school superintendents to discuss safety and security issues that they have, and lockdown drills and fire drills and wind drills and all that fun stuff. We have been coordinating testing their reunification process. We've been going through tabletop exercises with all the schools. And one of the discussion points that came out of that is none of the schools have the real ability to establish a reunification kit on their own. And it was recommended that we pursue a 2% grant in order to have one robust kit that can be deployed to the reunification site to assist with the reunification process. So that is what I have before you today.
So
Commissioner Rusty.
just explain to us how that kit works.
Yeah, basically what it's going to do is we would have, each school has a identified reunification site and a backup and all that good stuff. And what we would have to do is ensure that traffic flowed correctly around the reunification site so that we can efficiently drop and get kids back in with their parents and whatnot. Some of that is being able to communicate inside the building from outside, so the radios were kind of important. Traffic cones, signs, clipboards, binders, and all those little things. So
it's the logistics of
it is
the
the logistics of
process.
it, correct.
Okay.
Correct. All the schools use the same policies, you could say.
Yeah.
So they will all be able to use this kit.
So that the kids actually stay in the classroom and an adult identifies that the parent is the correct person to pick up that particular child.
Correct. And there is some paperwork that all the parents have to fill out so that it matches up with the student.
My daughter's school uses that type of system where she's at. She's in a different state. And they have to have some sort of an identification to show.
Yes.
To pick up that child.
It could very well be the same system that we use. This is nationwide. It is, I love you guys. It's pretty easy to remember. So if you talk to your daughter, it might be the same.
Yeah, it's a good program.
Mhm.
Never know when you need it.
It's true. Hopefully we never do.
Yeah, hopefully. Maybe.
Commissioner Allen.
Motion to recommend that the Board of Commissioners approve Leelanau County Office of Emergency Management to pursue Grand Traverse Band tribal 2% funding in order to establish a school reunification kit that will assist our local schools in uniting students with their families following an evacuation.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
For that. Well, that brings us to family court and Leelanau Christian Neighbors. Blessings in a black backpack.
You gotta do all over again.
Hi again.
Making a request on behalf of the Leelanau Christian Neighbors for the Blessings in a Backpack. It's a program that helps provide food to school children, bring it home on weekends. The request is for 20% of what the total cost of that is for the year, in the amount of $8,200.
Commissioner Allen.
Allocation of 2% funds for Leelanau Family Court to administer the funds as an addition to their budget for blessings in a backpack provided by Leelanau Christian Neighbors. And I think that should have been preceded by motion.
You recommend to the Board of Commissioners?
Yes, motion to the Board of Commissioners.
And
Go ahead.
rather than me make an amendment, did you want to add to your motion for the amount of $8,200?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
You want me to say it all again?
Well, I know Jen's got it, I'm sure, as long as it's all complete.
Is that okay with the second? Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Wall.
So do all the schools do the blessings in a backpack from Leelanau Christian Neighbors?
I'm not certain that all of the schools do.
Okay.
I know that Sutton's Bay for sure does, and I believe Leland and Northport, I'm not 100% sure, like one way.
Has it been offered to them, do you know, or, okay,
Probably.
all right, well, you can just get, you're gonna do it today, but get back to me and let me know which school
Sure.
this will benefit for next week, okay?
Commissioner Wesson.
There are 345 students identified for blessings.
So we go.
Glen Lake 71, Leland 70, Montessori 6, Northport 74, St. Mary's 18, Sutton's Bay 106.
Oh, okay, good.
Sorry.
So how are these,
In New Traverse City
In-
School, I'm sorry.
yeah, how are these into probate court? Of these 345, how many are members, or under your jurisdiction?
Well, I don't know exactly out of that number, but I'm sure quite a few are because of the population we serve. Typically are kids that don't come from, very privileged families. Sometimes they poverty.
So how does the money from these taxes, how does it get delivered to those people who are, in court? Or does it just go to anybody who comes and gets it?
Well, that would have to be determined by the Leelanau Christian Neighbors in terms of who they serve.
And so to me, this is just a donation to Leelanau Christian Neighbors, and then they decide who it goes to. They make the determination, and it can go to anybody, and the court doesn't really have any overseeing of it at all. So the government cannot donate to places, so how, I don't see how this is not a donation.
Well, I'm sure it's involving some of the families that we deal with. We would have to have some type of tracking type of system in place to determine which and how many of those kids. This is the same situation we've been in, before when there's been other grants funded through Leelanau Christian Neighbors. And we've worked with them before to see, the ones that have been families that we've been involved with. But I'm sure there's still going to be some that will not always be ones that we're involved with. And in that way, it works as a preventative type of tool, and I see nothing wrong with that.
Well, see, that's the whole point, is that, you at least Senior Services goes over there and makes sure it goes to seniors. Here, nobody's seeing who it goes to, so you don't know. You're guessing.
No, I used to go
Because of
over
the
there.
numbers that it will.
I would go over there and go through the book with.
And when it goes to families and I don't say they shouldn't get it, but when it goes to non-probate people, then it's a donation from the county. And that's totally illegal. And that's the problem I keep having with this. If you went over there and oversaw it, I would say fine, but you don't. You don't make sure it goes to only those people that the court should be dealing with. So I can't support this kind of thing because, again, the government does not donate. We don't collect from one and decide who to give it to another. It has to be under a contract type of situation where we know that those are receiving who should, not just anybody who shows up.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the United States Department of Agriculture have identified 42.9% of our county's K through 12 students as being at risk for food shortages. That list is available. The need is there. Almost half of our students are at risk, certified by the United States Department of Agriculture for needing food assistance. That's who these are going to.
I'm not arguing that. That's not what I'm talking about. It's a nonprofit organization that we're donating the money to, which is an illegal procedure. Commissioner Alvar.
I respect your opinion, and I know you've held that opinion for a very, very long time. I question whether this is illegal, and I guess I hearken back to the formation of the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners in 1853, I think it was. And our first act was to give $5,000 to the widows and children of Civil War veterans. We had supervisors of the poor, 3 of them, until around 1920. And at the beginning of every single commission meeting, the first order of business was to hear from the supervisors of the poor. We gave people a plow. We gave them seeds. We gave them food. We created a poor farm. This county was in the business of helping its residents for the first 70 years of our inception. So I respectfully disagree that this is not something we should do. And I especially agree that we need to do what we can. And this is the tribe's money, which they're donating, and I respect your opinion, I disagree. I support this.
Okay, Commissioner Water.
Respectfully, there are numerous programs that are now in place to do the things this Board of Supervisors, I believe it was then, felt like they had to do. That was before. This is now. Now we've got courts, now we have the Health and Human Services, and now we have all kinds of organizations. That is not the question. The question is, this is also, it's not tribe's money or donation. This is in lieu of taxes. This is payment in lieu of taxes for their 2% of what they made on gambling fees by the pact, by the agreement. So we are owed this money. Question is how to spend it. So therein lies the question of, should we just be donating to Leelanau Christian Neighbors? And that's been a question for a lot of years. I get that question because coming from the courts, one could say, okay, that makes sense if we are assisting your clients, and how we have, 13, 14, 15 kids in the county that need, how many are under your direct supervision? I don't know how many that is, 200. That would be a direct link, but right now we're just saying, here, Leelanau Christian Neighbors, here's this money to give children who need food, and there's no question that helping children eat is a good thing. There's no question about that. I have some questions about why, but maybe not if. So that being said, just a little bit of clarification. But I see that there are no Traverse City Public School children listed. So I do wonder about that. You must have some that are maybe none in your system.
Oh, certainly we have kids that live in the Traverse City school system in the southern part of the county that.
But they don't get backpacks?
This is through their program in terms of the schools that they serve. And as they indicated there, that it does include Glen Lake, like Leelanau, St. Mary's, Montessori, Leland, Northport, and Suttons Bay.
So on top of this, for next week, can you ask them why they don't do Traverse City school children?
I'm certainly looking at that.
Yeah, because that actually encompasses District 1 and District 2. Our kids get left out.
In 7, 1, 2, and 7.
And 7.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, we've heard the arguments before about Leelanau Christian Neighbors and accountability. A couple of things. There is not another agency in our county that does this. If Leelanau Christian Neighbors didn't do it, there wouldn't be a Blessings in a Backpack program in the county. Leelanau Christian Neighbors does not make the decision on who gets those. It's the school principals and the school staff that identify the people with the help of those food lists developed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. There's a lot of accountability built in. But if we have trouble doing this through Leelanau Christian Neighbors, we're in the mood to create departments today. Let's create a department that's a county department. And then let us try to do the job that Leelanau Christian Neighbors does at no expense to us. We should be applauding the partnership. Instead, every time they come here, we beat them up because they don't give us enough information. They're fulfilling a need that is a serious need. And the only thing we're doing for them is saying, we're going to let you apply for Grand Traverse Band 2% money. What is wrong with that? And we go through this argument every time. We spend more time about whether we're going to give Leelanau Christian Neighbors a permission to apply for an $8,000 grant than we did a few minutes ago creating 2 new departments in the county commission offices. It makes no sense. If anybody's still watching, they must think we've gone nuts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 5-2. Thank you for that.
Chairman, because you have one person remote, you have to do a roll call.
Oh, okay. We'll do a roll call on that.
If it's not 7-0.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next, we go.
Commissioner Al Dyer?
This is the one we just voted on?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman Bonnet?
No.
Commissioner Lautner?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushton?
No,
Commissioner Sotis Little?
Yes,
Commissioner Wessel?
Yes.
5-2.
Thank you. All right, then that brings us to family court lift, Leelanau investing in teens.
Request is in conjunction with the Lift Teen Center, it's part of the Friendship Center. They serve kids in an after-school program. They're seeking to renovate and refurbish the meeting space used by the Lift youth programs in the amount of $22,039.
Commissioner Wesson.
Move to recommend allocation of 2% funds for Leelanau Family Court to administer the funds as an addition to their budget for lift renovation and a refurbishment of meeting space used for youth programs in the amount of $22,039.
second,
Commissioner Rushton.
that is lift a nonprofit status.
I believe they're,
I can answer that. The answer is yes, because they applied for part of the community development block grant.
So
So they have to be a nonprofit.
So we have a contract with them to do what exactly?
renovation.
But I guess for services, we don't.
We don't have a contract. If this is approved, then we would have to develop.
Then you'll
a
get a contract. The contract would be for what service?
It'd be based on whatever's in the grant.
Just to do the renovations to the place on Broadway Street or whatever. But that's all it's.
Isn't that the Friendship Center though?
It is part of the Friendship Center, but they have a dedicated space for the teens.
But they don't own the building.
No, so we're fixing up somebody else's building?
Lift does not own the building?
Yes, we do.
Lift owns the building? Okay.
I believe so. I believe we were in the process of purchasing.
Commissioner Locke.
So I know they did get some stimulus dollars too. It wasn't a lot, 5,000.
It wasn't even that much. It was for reimbursement of food, but to get the money, I know they had to be a nonprofit, so.
So that isn't, this still doesn't, I mean, this applies on top of that. Is there wish? Okay, and you got a target of 300 kids, I think it said, and then, so in a target of, or do you, okay, the total Grand Traverse band member community got 200. Are they presently used in this center? 200 of them?
Are they what?
Do you presently have 200 Grand Traverse band members using the building now?
I don't know what their how many are currently using, but if that's what they indicate, that's probably what they have.
And then 300, it's a target population? How many kids does this serve? How many teams do they have coming in there regularly?
They have, a number every day that if they're saying that they have 200 or 300, that's the amount that they're targeting for the year. I'm sure they're not having 200 or 300 per day, but I don't know exactly what their number is on a daily basis. I don't personally go there. It's our staff that would work with the kids there. But
I gotta see a service, because this is the same. I just said this is payment in lieu of taxes. So this isn't something we would normally go do for any organization. Say my nonprofit Lions Club needs some renovations to the building, but I don't know, even though they serve community, I don't know what we would contract with them for. So how does this fit in what we would normally budget for?
What's the service?
Yeah, I gotta- What's the sell?
Yeah, what's the service agreement gonna
Yeah,
look
because
like?
what would the contracts look like? Right.
well, I think that would be up to the corporate council to help draft what that service agreement would look like.
It would be based on whatever's on the
I know, but what is this?
proposal.
What are you gonna tell them to write it for the service? What is the service?
What they do is attach the proposal, so it's what's in the proposal. Basically to renovate the building.
Page 141 on the packet. That states they reach 100 kids.
I know that there isn't really a service, so that's, I guess, what I was looking for, what will the service be? Like, what are we contracting?
How many of these children are involved in the probate court?
Well, we have quite a few kids that are involved in their program. I don't know what the ratio is of kids that we have to the total number, but we do have a number of kids that are in the program.
So if there's 200, would 100 of them be in probate court?
No,
you just
it's
said-
probably less than that, but it could be
You talked about 53 this
Right.
morning. That'd probably be the maximum,
50 to 60, yeah.
you know. So again, I see this as a donation to a nonprofit from the government. And we somehow, through 4 votes or 5 votes, say we're making it legal. Commissioner Wesson.
Part of the LIFT program, and it's closely affiliated with Sutton's Bay School and closely affiliated with the tribal students from the tribe. But a part of their objective is diversion, so that they don't end up in our court program. So if they're currently not being served by Joe and his staff, it may be because LIFT has been successful in intervening on some of the situations that they're having. Part of what LIFT does is keep them off the streets. After school, they go to LIFT. At lunchtime, they go to LIFT. There's mentors there. It's the business of helping kids grow up and keeping them out of the court system that LIFT's so good at, I think.
After school time is a very high risk time for kids to get in trouble.
Well, that's different than what I understood. So are you there then? Are you running programs out of there? You're down there intervening?
The diversion prevention staff are often there, and we will do summer programs and such with them, and sometimes after-school programs. Yes, we do.
Well, that was the issue I was gonna raise, if I may speak, Mr. Chairman. I do see LIFT being very helpful in the community for our youth. They run a great operation there. They do keep a lot of kids off the street. She is involved with our opioid task force. And I was gonna say that John, I believe, I forgot the other gal's name, prevention. Sarah. I don't know, is she spending time there? I know John does.
Yes, they both minimally bring kids there and often stay and then bring kids back. Of course, that's been limited due to COVID, but, pre-COVID, that's traditionally what they would do.
I don't know if we can approve this for building renovations or not.
Can we move it forward to Tuesday and get some answers to that? See, I mean, that's,
Yeah,
it's,
if we're supporting prevention measures from the family court, I don't see why we can't support this, but, maybe you could bring us a couple programs that they might perform there at Lyft, or, how often they go to Lyft, or give us something to work with. You haven't given us anything to work with on this.
I agree with that.
Do I have a motion to move forward with some work?
I've had my hand up for quite a while.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
And if we read page 141 again closely, a lot of the questions that are being asked are answered there.
No,
So,
they're not, no. That's not, those aren't the answers.
All right. Any other questions or statements?
I just have a question. I have a motion by Wessel, seconded by Sotos Little, to approve this. That's all I have.
You need
Okay.
any- Yeah,
So this give me a roll call.
yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
I have a thought.
Go ahead.
I'd rather that we have almost unanimous support, and I'm willing to draw this off and get the answers to the questions that Commissioner Lautner has. So I withdraw my motion and say I'd like to move it forward till next week.
I was just gonna
Is
say
that
this.
okay with the second, Commissioner Sotos Little? All right.
I appreciate that, Ty.
I'd like to see this building, perhaps after renovations if it goes through, when they're done. I'd like to
Pretty old.
see it.
Yeah,
It's pretty old.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was happy to hear that they're involved and over there working with it, because to me, then that involves the county, and we're overseeing what's going on.
That's right.
I don't know that putting up a building or helping them is actually, is because they own it, that's something we should do. I mean, if we were helping Leelanau Christian Neighbors put their building up, or the Samaritan Closets, or, whatever else, I'd be a little concerned about that. That's the only question I have about it. But I mean, as far as helping lift, I'm happy that we have people over there. And those are the kinds of things that I don't see as a donation, because then we have people participating in it.
We are providing a service.
Correct.
Exactly.
But for what it's worth, I mean, in the past, the board has supported our own things like getting new kayaks.
Correct.
Okay, and new kayaks are a physical entity that you need in order to float down the river. It's no different than providing a building and renovations to a building for people to gather.
We own
It's
the
a
kayak.
physical
We
aspect.
own the kayak.
Right, we don't own the building.
And you use a kayak to take troubled teens down the river.
Mhm.
That's a
But you
service.
need buildings to do the same thing with kids and programs to, do activities. You can't just do it outside in the tent or.
All right, we're
If-
gonna have
if-
to answer this, and we can move forward for next week, and hopefully we get these questions answered.
Well, I would just like to say, if his staff is over there performing and they have to pay rent to utilize the building, it's not our building. We should not be paying to renovate somebody else's building. But if our staff is using that building, then, we can pay rent.
Justified. That's what you're saying, pay a rent to the building.
We have to have,
Sorry.
we have to follow certain guidelines with this. And I don't think you quite understand that.
Do we have a motion to move this forward?
I think that's what you changed
Okay.
it to. Yeah.
All right. Do you have that there, Jen?
That's what I have.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. So this will be, what we're hoping we'll get more information about what the renovation is.
Yep.
All right.
For what it's worth regarding the previous Leelanau Christian Neighbors, April will help provide information that Father Fred is the one that provides for Traverse City Schools.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so then that brings us to Park and Rec. Invasion pieces eradication.
I figured that was the case, but,
Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
My video's been turned off on your end, so I'll just come through by audio. Dave Barron's here, Elmwood Township Parks and Rec Commission.
hi Dave,
Hello.
are you here for the bench?
No,
No,
he's
we're
here-
here for the,
he's here for invasive
Okay,
species
invasive
eradication.
species.
That's what we're on.
Yep, I wanted to hop right over it.
So as you may have judged from your packet, Bill Watson has put together a expansive plan in this application. Bill Watson is the Director of Youth Works, which is under the auspices of Child and Family Services of Northwest Michigan. This would be the third service that he's provided to Parks and Rec at Veronica Valley. As you can see, it's a substantial plan because it totals $50,000, some $50,000 here. The request for the 2% allocation is $22,000. That's what, 43% of the overall plan. The rest of the match is what Mr. Watson has done. I mean, this is what Bill does. He has, I don't know if you know him, he has a long history and a solid reputation in the whole area, not just.
Seeds, right? So he seeds?
Yeah, he worked a lot with seeds and at the Traverse High School, where I first met him with programs, work programs that he had organized through Traverse High School. In any case, well, questions. Part of the expansion of this is engaging a group called City Farm Girls. I don't know all of their program, but part of their income is by renting out their goats for management of invasive species. They bring in the goats and the full team to monitor them or to manage them, including the movable electric wire paddocks. And so working with them, we choose where we want the goats to work. They eat just about anything, all of the invasives, including buckthorn, which we need some help with. This just continues our work last year with Bill's crew on invasive species, principally autumn olive at Veronica Valley. Invasive species management is never a one-off. You have to keep at it. And this is just another good plan.
Mr. Rogers.
so Dave, the process with the goats and the invasive species, is that a one-year fix?
No, well, again, I doubt it. Invasive species is never a one-off or 1 year. The thing about goats is it will, where they operate, where we are able to pen them off and move them along, they will probably give us a several year fix. They will certainly get us ahead of a management problem.
And children are on property during the stay of the goats?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question, Commissioner.
Are the children, do the children stay on property while the goats do their business of munching?
Which children? Which children are you referring to?
I thought I read something in the piece that said something about the children who work with the goats. Is that incorrect?
No.
Well, the goats are part of an organization. I mean, they are the income stream of an organization called City Girls Farm,
Okay.
which is an
All right.
educational organization. The goats are not managed as part of that. They're certainly managed by a knowledgeable team. They do not reside at the park overnight. They are removed with all of their equipment overnight and brought back the next day. So they're only on the park property for the duration of their feeding.
Okay,
I do not know the arrangements of where they go at night. That's all part of their business and it's someplace local, but the goats do not stay there at night.
well, that's what I was wondering. Thank you for that.
So what, Dave, what is the local leveraging of 30,200? Is that in kind? Or what is that?
Well, according to the budget page, as I read it here, the in-kind is 3,000, but the local match is what Bill Watson, this is part of what Bill does. He's built his programs on soft money, on grant monies and grant applications. And so this match is coming from other funds that he has sought and put together from other sources. That
So
match.
he's getting the 30,000 from somewhere else. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's 25,200 as he has it in the budget I'm looking at, is match from other sources. 3,000 is in-kind contributions. The total then comes
All
to,
right, maybe I've got a different budget.
well, I'm looking at the budget page and in the grant application.
Well, what, 148? Is it
Yes.
148? Then that's a different budget than we have. We've got different numbers than what I'm looking at.
Okay, Melinda, you're looking, I believe, on page 3, and I do see fiscal data, and it says amount requested.
You're page 2, yes. Our
Okay.
page 148.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay, I
22.
just was wondering,
So you're talking about that local leveraging 30,200.
right,
He breaks that down, although it doesn't. He breaks it down this far on the budget page, which I don't know, is on into the paper packet that I'm looking at as local match, 25,200, in-kind donations and from professionals and educators as part of that match, 3,000. The total project total comes to 50,200.
okay, so who's giving the 25,000?
Well, he identifies youth work, match total, AmeriCorps match, education awards. Again, I don't know that detail because this is what
Okay,
Bill has put together.
as long as he's got that lined up, that was my only concern.
Oh, yes, that's lined up. There is no commitment on, in that local match line from the county government.
Okay. So. It's worth a shot.
Yes, Commissioner Long.
Yes, I would move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approval of the Grand Traverse Band 2% allocation application from Parks and Recreation Commission on behalf of the Child and Family Services for invasive species eradication at Veronica Valley County Park in the amount of $22,000.
Second.
It's 22,000, correct?
Correct,
Not 2,200. 22,000.
correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Adler, do you have a?
No, I was gonna make a motion.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign.
Oops.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Dave.
So that brings us to number 9, which is the senior services donation. Thank you for waiting, April. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That is our late addition here.
Oh, yeah. That's our money.
I'm just seeking approval to accept a donation from an anonymous donor of $2,000 that will be placed in our pandemic account.
Commissioner Locke.
Yes, I would move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to allow the Leelanau County Senior Services to accept a contribution from an anonymous donor totaling $2,000 and place into Leelanau Senior Services Pandemic Donations Account ending in 675.0919.
Second.
Any other comments? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign.
Can I ask a
Motion passes
question?
7-0. Sure.
If you don't use those resources for the pandemic, does it still allow you to use those resources for another area in your budget?
Sure.
Okay. I just wondered. I didn't know if it was specific, if the donator made it specific.
No.
Okay.
Quick question, in claims and accounts, we had a senior help, forget what you termed that, just read it.
Unmet need?
And yeah, I meant needs, and it was, I think, Lake and hardwood, so is this somebody that's burning wood to stay warm?
Correct.
Okay, I wondered about that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then that would bring us to number 10, on opening prayer guidelines. And I would make a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners that we accept the prayer policy guidelines from page 159 through 161.
I'll second.
Commissioner West.
1 or 162? 161?
I believe it's through 161.
It is. 162 is the second policy.
Oh, it's a separate policy, okay.
That's a different policy.
Oh, gotcha, okay, so then you have support, okay.
Commissioner West, sorry.
I believe the board's adoption of a prayer resolution would be discriminatory, ill-conceived, exclusionary, and inappropriate. I also think it opens the county up to potential legal challenges and serves as a diversion from doing those things that are our county's business. Most importantly, it fails to recognize the diversity of our county's residents and the fact that over half of our constituents have beliefs not consistent with our county's established churches. It's not our mission, and certainly not within the scope of mandated responsibilities of the county government. I move to table this issue until our organizational meeting in 2023.
Second,
Okay, so we'll have a vote on tabling this issue.
For
Yeah,
2 years?
what's that? There's no discussion once it's been seconded. So we have to have a vote to table it. So this would be a roll call.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Elder,
Yes.
Chairman Bonnet,
No.
Commissioner Lautner,
No.
Commissioner Robbins,
No.
Commissioner Rushton,
No.
Commissioner Sotos Little.
yes.
Fails 3-4.
All right, so then we would ask for a vote on the motion. Yes, Commissioner Allen.
I would suggest a modification, some discussion of the second proposal before we vote on this. Can you do that? Because there were 2 proposed.
So we have a motion on the table. If it fails, then we'll go to the second one. I mean, we can discuss the first one. I mean, it would just get confusing to start discussing the second one.
I think you should, and so I hear you, I understand that, and I think it would have been appropriate to discuss both of them before you make a motion. But that's just my opinion.
Commissioner Solis Little.
Yeah, I want to be sure I'm looking at the one that we're voting on. What number? Can you hear me, by the way? I had to change computers, so now instead of having everything on one computer, I'm using 2. But I think you can hear me better now?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So,
Okay, it's on it's pages 159 through 161.
59 to 161.
Yeah.
Thank you. And before we vote, if this is the one we're looking at, I'd like to, and it would apply in a number of places, but where it says and I'm just going to pick up one. The board shall allow clergy members, I want to add, with congregates in Leelanau, with congregates in Leelanau County. Many people who attend places, churches, or mosque or whatever outside of the county live in this county, but there are no synagogues here that I'm aware of. So they attend in Traverse City, but the way this is written, it's only clergy members of Leelanau County. So if we say clergy members with congregates in Leelanau County and cut out the word of Leelanau County, then we're allowing all faiths to be considered, not just Christian faiths. Is that clear?
Yes, that is.
So that's my motion.
Okay.
A motion or amendment?
I get
You mean to
amendment. There's a motion on the
Yeah.
floor. Amendment.
I would support that idea because I think this is very divisive as written.
Commissioner, did you want to speak to that? You had your hand up, or is it just the second?
Yeah, because we need to represent all of the people of Leelanau County, not just the people who go to Christian churches. So her idea supports the citizens of the county, many of whom go outside the county.
Commissioner Wesson.
I like the modification suggested if we must do that. But one of our responsibilities as county commissioners is to make sure that we don't enter into situations where we face legal challenges that are costly, both in terms of staff time and in terms of staff money. Only a little over 40% of the residents in this county claim to have any religious beliefs at all. Almost 60% of the residents of this county say they do not have religious beliefs. We are certainly going to cause some problems in the future with people not liking what's said, people feeling unrepresented, or feeling other groups are overrepresented. We've got a perfect plan in place to have a silent prayer at the beginning of the meeting, which I think we all take advantage of. Why we would enter into this sort of an arrangement when we've clearly heard from almost everybody that's spoken out to us, and almost all of the emails I've received, and many of the ministers that I've heard from, why it's another example of trying to change something that's not broken. And what our chair said was, maybe we'll do the prayer because it might make us do business better together. Well, let's see if there's any evidence to support that before we do. Let's do some research analysis and see if any county can find any evidence that saying a prayer before the meeting makes anybody more thoughtful, makes anybody more respectful, makes anybody more civil. I bet you won't find that. But I think silent prayer could do that. This is not good for our county. It's not what our residents want us to be spending our time on. And three of the people that are supporting this have constantly nagged at me about suggesting we do stuff that's not mandated. Always being criticized and saying we shouldn't be doing that. It's not in our mandated responsibilities. This clearly is not a mandated responsibility for county government. Mandated responsibilities of county commissioners are to get the business done. Think how much business we could have gotten done, the time we've spent talking about this issue since it was first brought up. Thank you.
Commissioner Watt.
I'm not going to support the amendment because I think that the way it is written, I believe will cover the vast majority of people in our county. And we can't, there's no way we can set out to please 100% of the citizens. Those who choose not to participate, by all means, are not expected to participate. This is from our attorney. Our attorney has,
What modification for Mr. Bond?
The red parts are what I have.
okay. So I will not support the amendment. I'm going to support the motion. So.
Right, and when I added the red parts, it was trying to include what Commissioner Alguier had wanted about having commissioners involved with it. So that's why I call it a compromise. And that we tried to address that and put it in there, and hopefully that it work out for, and we're definitely not trying to exclude anyone. There's no intent in this to exclude anyone. The thing is try to follow the guidelines set up by our corporate lawyers, and using both types of the two different resolutions that he put together. So in hopes that we'll all work together, bring solemnity and seriousness to these meetings, and bring us to a much better working together. Commissioner Sutis, did you have your hand up there?
No, I didn't, but I will make a comment, and I can appreciate your intent, Commissioner, but this is a very of how it not bring us together. This is Ty is right. We have heard from people who are deeply religious.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're breaking all up. Really can't understand it all. I'm sorry.
Okay, I think it has to be the system because whenever I've Zoomed before, you've always been able to hear me. So is there any better? Is this better now?
You're clear now. You're very clear now.
Okay, what I said was that this does not bring us together by the very arguing. Because there is a lot of noise going on. I think that's why you're having trouble hearing me. Part of the difficulty is that, as Ty said, so many of our people don't want this, and people who are deeply written to us and said, please don't do this. And yet here we are doing it, and here we are arguing over it. It's clear to me this amendment is going to fail. This amendment fails. I can possibly support this resolution. I don't think we should be doing it. I don't think it's good for the county. It's not what people want. And I agree with Ty, who spent more time arguing and talking about this instead of doing the county business. That's all.
Commissioner West.
Point of order on this motion, because I don't have the minutes from the last meeting, but this board asked the chair and asked Commissioner Alguier to come back with a resolution, a compromise resolution. And I don't think we did that. I didn't hear what I heard was you couldn't reach agreement. And then we didn't even have the courtesy of talking about the two options that were on the table. I think this is totally out of order. It's inconsistent, and maybe we need to take a break and go and ask the clerk's office to provide us with the minutes from last meeting where we charged the chair and a commissioner to come back with a proposed solution. And I don't think we got that. So I don't think this motion that we have before us today is a legitimate, proper motion to come before this board, because it's not what we directed the two of you to do.
Commissioner Alguier.
I echo the fact that while I appreciate you pointing out that the line in red is your intent to compromise, that's not really what my intent was. I appreciate the effort, but If we were to come back with a resolution which we couldn't meet, at least I think we should discuss the two motions that were presented today. And immediately voting on this with no discussion of the other, just kind of, we were gonna bring it here to discuss since we couldn't arrive at a compromise there. We're not having any opportunity as a board to discuss different options. You just presented yours, it'll be voted on, and we'll be done.
Commissioner Lund.
Call the questions, please.
We don't have a second, so we have to,
I'll second it.
oh, all right. Well, so the first vote would be on, we're going to call the question, stop debate. Then, well, we'll do that first, if we want to stop debate. So this is, we have just a roll call vote to see if we want to stop the debate.
And it was Lautner, correct?
Correct.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes.
Commissioner Solis Little,
Can she hear you?
Did you hear her? She said no.
okay, I did not. Commissioner Wessel,
No.
Commissioner Elguyer,
No.
Chairman Bennett,
Yes.
passes 4-3.
Okay, so now we'll vote on the amendment that Commissioner Solis Little put forward.
Do you want that roll call too?
Yes,
Could you remind us of the amendment?
it's to change the, well, I'll let,
I have it to say change with congregates in Leelanau County and that clergy members, to allow clergy members with congregates. It's kind of like how I have it. I have to go back to it, but basically she wants congregates changed so that it's clergy to include so that they can go else out of the county, correct?
Yeah, I'll pick one of the lines on page 2, number G. It says, currently, Leelanau County Board of Commissioners has a policy to invite members of the clergy in Leelanau County to voluntarily. I'm saying members of the clergy with congregates in Leelanau County. So that would mean you're including members of the clergy outside of Leelanau County, not just in Leelanau County. So people who went to church in Leelanau County or in Traverse City could have their clergymen come in.
Okay, so it'd be changing G
But it's
throughout
throughout
the resolution,
one spot.
throughout the plan.
Yeah, it's in
gotta
number
call the question, gotta call it. No. Okay, so, well, now does everyone understand?
So we're voting on the amendment,
Yes,
but I have a clarification.
okay.
Define the word congregates. What do you mean by that? Because when I looked it up, it just said a mass of people.
mass of people who go to a church outside Leelanau County is what, it's a congregate. And I thought
Well,
after.
it just said, you're just saying congregates, which means just a mass of people.
Point of order, I thought when a question was called, discussed,
Yes, she's trying to define a term to decide how she's gonna vote on it. So we're trying to define the term that you've used in your, that's what she's asking for, is a clarification on the definition of the term.
if there's a better term, then we can substitute with it. But what I was implying was if people belonged and went to a church outside of Leelanau County, say a Jewish mosque or something else, then if we get rid of requiring the clergy to be a resident, to have their church in Leelanau County, we should say clergy who have, clergy who have congregates, attendees in their church that's outside of Leelanau County. Now, if you don't want to use the word congregate, that's usually what I think it's used in a church, but you can substitute it with a different word. I'm trying to say, if you belong to a church outside of Leelanau County, And you should be able to, that clergy, come here and do a prayer.
You understand that?
I do, thank you.
Okay. So now go ahead and vote.
Are we voting on the amendment?
Yes, this is the vote on the amendment.
Commissioner Solis Little,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
No.
Commissioner Elgar,
Yes.
Chairman Bennett,
No.
Commissioner Lautner,
No,
Commissioner Robbins,
No.
Commissioner Rushton.
No.
Fails.
5-2. Okay. Yes, now we'll have a vote on the entire thing. On the resolution as it is. Is this for clarification on what we're voting on? Because a question has been called.
This is, okay, I have a real concern we'll have to address later.
Okay, yeah, we're done with discussion. It's already been decided that we'd ended discussion. So we'd have a vote now on the policy guidelines.
Chairman Bennett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
yes,
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes.
Commissioner Solis Little,
No.
Commissioner Wessel,
No.
Commissioner Elgar,
No.
passes 4-3.
Okay, thank you very much for
Mr.
that.
Chairman,
Yeah,
we haven't talked about the placement of this on the agenda, and I'd like to, before we implement this, put some protections in place so that those that might not want to participate in this process aren't made to feel left out or ostracized. And I think that deserves a lot of discussion. And I'd like to be a part of that discussion. I think it's very important. I don't like the resolution that we have approved. I will be respectful of it and I will accept it. But now my responsibility is to make sure that we implement it in a way that 100% of the residents feel a part of this county government and not just the 42% that might applaud the act that we did today.
I don't disagree. If we did it right after call to order, immediately following call to order, then anybody who did not want to participate would not have to listen through anything. It'd be the very beginning of the meeting.
Mr. Rush.
I agree with that, and I would also recommend that we remain seated in our seats during the prayer. After the prayer is over with, I recommend that we stand for the pledge.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Then nobody's ostracized
Commissioner Allen.
or feels that way.
I would support that, but I have another concern. I'm thinking of February blizzards, et cetera. We discussed this in our meeting. I think that clergy should have the option of calling in, especially if there's inclement weather. Some of them might have to drive 20 miles. And that's kind of an inappropriate ask for 2 or 3 minutes. I think we should give them the option of calling in. I think that's kind of real life here in Leelanau County, especially in the winter.
Well, I would say if we're going to continue the Zoom and the YouTube things, and that would probably work. But if we don't continue those, then I would say no, we're not going to have that, But is there an objection to where we put it, if we put it right after the call to order? Or the other thing I thought is we could do it right after roll call.
Well, I do like the idea that we remain seated. I think that's important. I don't see another solution. So I'll stop talking. I prefer what Rushton has talked about, starting it before the pledge. I guess I really would prefer that we do it at 5 minutes before the meeting starts. And then those that choose to be on time in the meeting but not be early to the meeting would not be forced to participate. I just see all sorts of issues on this, and I think it's another example of a well-intended, ill-conceived, really dumb idea.
Commissioner Rushing?
I was just gonna say, as we move along on the agenda, I would prefer to see it after the call to order, have the prayer while we remain seated, and then go about moving forward with the meeting. And by doing it that way, those people who do not care to listen in on that part of the meeting, they will know that the first couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it is, and they'll know that the meeting will start. You know, if they don't want to come, if they don't want to sit in, they don't have to. They don't have to listen to it.
All right, I would say by consensus that we would do that then. Let's just do it after the call to order. And then we can always, when we do our organization or at any time, we can change it if we really want to.
Chairman, can I
Yes,
just bring in,
Commissioner.
I've got a visual of us doing this. And then between that and the pledge, we have people walking into the room. If we did it at 3 minutes too, and then anyone who wanted to come in could.
It has to be part of our meeting. I mean, that's part of what we're doing. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna make one more comment because I'm hoping somebody changes their mind before next week and we can reverse this decision. But when this was first introduced by Mr. Zemaitis as something we ought to work for, he talked about 2 things. He talked about patriotism and he talked about religion and faith in God. Those are almost at odds, because a part of what our country stands for is not forcing everybody to believe the same thing, not forcing our will on other people. So if we believe in what this country stands for, we shouldn't be saying what they all must have at the meeting that represents them. I'm hoping we give that some thought, and I'm hoping instead of a 4-3 vote on next week, it's a 3-4 vote, and that we can move forward without a prayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right.
I guess I'd like you all to read the second option also before next week. So we can truly have a discussion.
Would what? I'm sorry.
That we would read the second option, and I would have made modifications to that, so we can truly have a discussion, which we did not do this time.
Well,
I
this is,
disagree for an item that we seem to think we are spending too much time on. There's been a whole lot of talk for the last half hour on this item, and we did read. We all got the packet.
Commissioner Elguire has the floor.
So sorry.
Were you through with your comment, Commissioner Elguire? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, we have already voted on this. It has been passed. And so we'll move on to the invisible Leelanau. Commissioner Russell, did you want to address this?
Yes, I did, in your board packet. In the year 2015, Bridge Magazine published an article about the invisible people that live in northern Michigan and how some people come here to vacation and they have their second homes and they come here to relax. And then there's the invisible people that live here. And that was in 2015. And every year since 2015, I've spent a lot of time going through all of the statistics I can find at the first of each year to kind of track our progress. And one of the things that happens is the metrics change some. One of the new metrics that we have that we all hear about is something called Alice household. Alice households are those households where the adults are working full-time and they still aren't able to pay their bills. They're full-time employed, but they're economically challenged. And they're either food insecure or housing insecure or health insecure. Well, in your board packet is my 6th or 7th edition of Poverty in Paradise, Invisible Leelanau. I know that Mr. Demitis couldn't wait to hear this, but I hope he's read it. But this year, in addition to putting together the 3-page summary of the statistics, I also, with a colleague of mine who used to work for UNICEF, we put together an essay on poverty, and this was geared toward Leelanau Township, poverty in Leelanau Township, and how might we address that? And I didn't distribute it because I didn't know if you're interested, but they're here. And Beth was co-authored with me, and she wrote you all a letter for public comment about how we might address poverty. But in your 3-page handout in your board packet, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, and then ask you, at the risk of me asking you to do this, so it means you won't, I really would like you to spend some time with us. We have an obligation to know about the people we serve. And as I look at, we are fortunate in Leelanau County. We are so fortunate, and most of us would not be anyplace else. I'm going this weekend to Ithaca, New York. It's a beautiful place in the Finger Lakes. I'd rather be here than there. I've been all over. I'd rather be here than there. But part of our responsibility is also to be a little bit dissatisfied with the status quo. And that's what this is about. And I just wanted to share, there's a bunch of statistics there, more than I'm going to go through because of the late hour. But the most telling statistic for me, the Alice households, 50% of the households in my township, Leelanau Township, 50% of them are Alice households, as defined by the United States criteria. 50%, 1 out of 2 of the households in my township are Alice households, meaning they're struggling, they're hungry, they're cold, they don't have homes, they're homeless, they're living on the couches. 26% of the households in our county are Alice households. 1 out of 4 households in Leelanau County, the wage earners are working full time, but they're not making enough money to pay their bill. Another statistic, 10% of the residents of this county, well, 9.5% of the residents of this county have been identified by the United States Department of Agriculture as being food insecure. 1 out of 10 of the people in our county, food insecure. So when we argue about whether we want Leelanau Christian Neighbors to apply for this grant or not, we ought to remember that number. 1 out of 10 of the people in this county don't have enough to eat and are at risk. 7.1% of the residents of this county are living below the poverty level established by the U.S. Department, the United States Department of Health and Human Services. 7.1. 1 out of 3 births in this county are born to parents with inadequate prenatal care. 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3. The county's percentage of Alice households has gone up, not down, in the last 10 years. Every year it gets a little bit worse. So we can't just say, well, that's the way it is, or if only they'd stay married, or if only they'd get a better job, or if only they'd get a better education. This is the reality that we face. So when we sit down here in June, or whenever it is, we talk about our federal stimulus dollars, I'd like us to get creative at how we might make a difference to these people. Now, I want to spend that money on broadband and internet too. But 1 out of 10 people, half the people in my township are hurting and struggling. So I think almost every decision we make as a county commission ought to consider the dynamics of the people that we're serving. And I've heard things said at this table that it's all their fault. Or if they'd only stay married, or if they only work better, or I did it, so why can't they? This is reality. And this is what we must accept as reality until we're part of changing. So I would ask you to read this, and I would be glad to give you the essay here. And I don't think the solution to this is all spending a lot of money. In my township, I think the biggest solution is arranging mentorships with adults in our community that have time and have talents and have a heart to help those less fortunate, not by giving money, but by giving time and talents. But there are other things we can do. And one of the things we ought to be doing is not arguing about whether or not we support Blessings in a Backpack, or the LIFT program, or our senior services program. The second highest group of people in this county living in poverty are senior women, over 65 women. That is our role. That's our responsibility. We've got a whole office dedicated to that. So I didn't expect any action, but I would like you to read this because I'm sincere about it. And I think it's something we all need to address. And maybe when we have our first prayer, we can pray for these people that are really struggling. Thank you.
Commissioner Long.
Yes, thank you. I have not heard any of the things we've just been accused of said at this table. So I am appalled that we would be accused of saying those things. I'm also appalled that someone will sit at this table and think that we do not know our constituents. We had two or three commissioners at this table who are more than willing to tax all the citizens of this county to take care of a problem down on Lake Leelanau. But I'm telling you, I've got residents that can't afford to take care of the problem down on Lake Leelanau, and yet that's what some are more than happy to do. When you're telling me they're hungry, but we're gonna make them pay for milfoil on Lake Leelanau, I know my constituents, I know who they are, and I know what their situations are.
Commissioner Alvarez.
I appreciate this information, and I think it's invaluable as we get together in June, hopefully, to start to explore how to best use our rescue funds. It shows us definitive areas and actions we can take to better the lives of our constituents and to help those people Lauren is talking about in very real ways. So I will read this. I appreciate the information, and I hope we take this information into our planning sessions.
Commissioner Rushton.
Ty, you mentioned that 9.5% of the people in countywide, was that countywide?
Yes.
Okay, food insecurity. Why is that? When we have places like Leelanau Christian Neighbors and churches, pantries everywhere.
Individuals, yourself.
But just that alone, they have opportunity to get food. I have got a very dear friend who goes at the end of the day to half of these food banks, picks up the food by truckful of loads and takes it out to the pig farm because people do not come in and utilize the food that has been available to them. So 9.5% food security in this county, there's no reason for it. I believe you said 7.1 is below the poverty level. Do we not have a federal and state safety net for people that live below the poverty level? Do they not qualify for those services?
Those 7.1% do qualify for
for services.
Program and,
So in other words, they're at the low end of the spectrum. I found myself there when I was younger, at a very young age. We all have. So there is a certain level of accountability and a responsibility on one. Now, I understand there are certain situations where that doesn't happen, but like you mentioned, or I mentioned, there are safety nets out there. We have farmers everywhere in our county. Food lays on the ground. So do the farmers do something about gathering up the stuff? Can they do it? Are the laws allowing that to happen? I understand that if a potato farmer harvests potatoes and whatever potatoes are left on top of the ground, those potatoes can't be used. Why not? Years ago, people would go behind the farmers who were gathering their food and allowing those people to pick whatever they wanted, whatever was left. There's a lot of safety nets out there. And you do bring the information to the board, and you have done that for the last 6 years. I appreciate that. We all need to be made aware that there are some people in our communities that do need help. But I don't know another nation, let alone county, that has more resources for those people than this county. There's a certain level of accountability that has to come into play.
Commissioner Sutislo.
Yes. First off, thank you. This information is, I know, takes a lot of time for you to put together. Incredibly helpful, and there are things that are a lot. Can you hear? The number of kids on free and reduced lunch that has risen from 6 years ago, which was around 40% to 42.9, really alarming. Yes, we do have safety nets out there. We don't have, or maybe looking on the positive side, picking up on what Commissioner Rushton is saying, maybe our job is to look at why the farmers aren't inviting people in to pick up anymore, to encourage more use of the safety networks that are out there, because if these many people are having trouble, there's a reason they're not being used. Now, we know part of the answers to that. Sometimes it's very complicated to get through the systems, and they don't have time. They're very busy working. But I think we could do a lot more to help people, and I am very appreciative to do this. I like Gwen's suggestion that we incorporate this into our June discussion on the ARP to see how we might be able to bolster what's out there or add to it, what's missing, and how, instead of saying why we don't know why it doesn't work, and we should just say that it's out there and people self.
Thank you. I appreciate this information too, and the one statistic that stood out to me was you said 1 out of 3 lack prenatal care, and to me there's a serious flaw there, because with the early childhood education they do provide, and so I'm going to definitely bring that to the health department, because that should not be happening in Leelanau County. They have the funds, they have the needs now. And maybe it's COVID has stopped them from doing it. I don't know, but I certainly will address that with them, and we'll find out what's going on, because that should not be happening.
On the main, all this data is a year old, and some of it is even 2 years old. But I wanted to respond to something Commissioner Rushton said, because I do understand her thoughts on the 7.1%. The group of people that I am most concerned about are the Alice households. The people that are doing their best. They're working full time. They're doing their child care. They're trying to provide houses. And if 1 out of 4 of our people in this county are Alice households, we can do something with those, because they've already proven themselves ready to work.
Commissioner Walker.
Well, I too, and maybe this is old, but although some of my information is old too, but I also was surprised at the 1/3 because I know I have constituents that, while going through their pregnancy, didn't have health insurance and actually received better health care than some of my constituents that had health care, more ultrasounds, et cetera, because they fit within a group that got funding for that sort of thing. And at the same time, then they remained unmarried for a short while, especially till after the baby's born, because everything was paid for through that. So I'm disappointed to hear 1/3. I hope that number is not right, because that is the most critical time for that child. And I would hope that they're searching out some help rather than it not being available, so. That's all.
Thank you for taking the time to let me present this.
Okay, then we bring us to the administration.
Yeah, Laura's gonna talk about the little.
All right.
You can pass this out, this is a quick update.
Hi there. Hi. This is already currently being bid on?
Yes, if you were to go to the front of our website, there's a news story that you can click on. It'll take you right to our bids vendor info page, where you can then access the link to the auction site. And the current bids, I printed this off probably mid-morning, and we have through 3 o'clock next Monday. It includes 5 vehicles as well as a boat, trailer, and motor.
Oh, and do you always show the current bid? Is that how these work?
Yeah, that's how they do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you have to keep watching it, you watch it till the end, you try to get the last bid if
Well, you
want.
can also do an auto bid.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you can place the maximum amount that you want to bid, it'll
And
automatically
then
bid
it all
for you, up to that
limits.
amount.
Oh, interesting, okay. Wow. So it goes till Monday?
Yes,
It's
at 3
about
o'clock.
a week. Okay. You don't have the value of the cars listed?
No,
Okay, they have to do that research.
most of them were high miles. There was one that was under, or just a little over 120,000. So we're probably, and there's a little bit of wear and tear on some of them. And I'm gonna work with Under Sheriff Kiesel on future cars to help prevent some of that in and out with their gun belts and stuff. Maybe help with the resale.
We do sell them as is though.
Oh, absolutely. Mhm. I'm kind of laughing at 120 being high miles, because that's usually where I buy my cars, so we start at 120.
Well, a lot of them are about 150,000.
It gets broken. Okay.
So does the money go back to general account? or-
Motor pool,
or motor pool?
I think so, right, Jen?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think it's a great process that we started. You know, we do, makes it real easy. And, you know, it gets out there in the hands of people who need it.
And that was this was your, I think Laurel got started on the whole.
Yeah.
Well, we had, apparently when I was taking over from Georgia, they had started the process, they just didn't finalize it. And so when I found out a little more about the company, I realized, well, that's a great avenue to do this. So we do our RFPs for this place, as well as their legacy site for options.
Right, and then that brings us to Leelanau Clean Water.
Yeah, last year, the decision was made by both parties that the counties and Leelanau Clean Water's best interest that we dissolve the current way it was structured, because they were not following county policies, open meetings and so forth. They do a great job of what they were doing, however, they didn't have proper procedures in place and everything. to look at the options. Both parties agreed, and the board agreed that it'd be best if they be independent. So they did form an independent nonprofit. The county commissioners last year for 2021 did allocate, I believe, $4,500. But just like everything else, we cannot just transfer the money over them. It has to be in a partnership. So legal counsel has drafted the standard agreement that if you wish to contribute money into the future, if you wish, probably not a good word, if you wish to allocate money for the projects for next year, you have to have a contract in place for them. So this sets up the legal procedure. They are now a formal nonprofit that has been finalized. They are meeting independently of the county now. They still have access to our facilities if they wish. The meetings have been mostly Zoom, but this is the last step in the process. This formalizes our partnership with them, and if you wish to allocate money for them in the future years, you have the ability to do it. Without this, you cannot allocate for funds.
So is this just information or is there?
No, you have to
This
agree.
is for agreement. We needed a motion for the agreement if we're going to do it.
And the contract is included, just as we have with other nonprofits.
Do we have the contract yet still?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's in the
it's
board
here,
packet.
it's, page 174 is the beginning of it.
I didn't see it.
I would like to just make the motion to move this forward until next week, so we have a little bit more opportunity to
Yeah, I want to
To
absorb
review.
support. Okay.
So the motion is just to move this forward
Yeah,
until next
move
week.
it forward.
All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. All right, and then the hiring policy moratorium.
Yeah, last year, almost exactly a year ago, we were in the height of the COVID, not knowing what the future held. And I actually recommended and the board approved the policy that basically put a freeze on hiring pending board approval. In the past, if there was an opening, as long as it was in the budget and approved, it did not have to go to the board. We made this temporary through December of 2020. In November of 2020, you extended it to June 30th. This one I recommend that we not extend it. As you can tell from the front page, we've had 19 vacancies since that time. Every single vote has been 7-0 to fill them. It has created a bit of a delay. For example, just this week, we had opening, well, last week in the clerk's office now. So if we go through this policy, that means we have to wait for the board to approve it. We can't start the process. Like I said, every vote has been 7-0 in all 19 openings. It still has to be in the budget. No one else can just add a position without it. But I recommend that you simply let it expire in June. So without a motion to go forward, you'll simply let it expire in June. If there is no motion today to go forward to it, next week we'll bring a proposal to fill a temporary vacancy or the vacancy in the clerk's office.
So a motion, a recommendation to lift the timeline or to lift the moratorium on filling.
You can either lift the moratorium now or just let it expire in June. We do have a vacancy in the clerk's office. We weren't, when this packet came out, we weren't expecting that one of the employees went to the building safety
Oh, I see,
department.
okay.
So if you lift the moratorium, then Michelle, the clerk, can fill that vacancy. Or I can bring in a late addition next Tuesday to fill that vacancy and just let this policy expire at June.
Is it June 1st or June 30th?
June 30th.
I would make the motion to move this forward until next week.
Support.
Okay, any questions or statements? I mean, I would say that it was just assumed ended now as opposed to, next week, as opposed to waiting till the end of June.
Yeah, I
You know,
agree.
Because I don't see it where we wouldn't be filling a position that's available anymore. And like you said, every time it's come up, we have on 7-0 with it. So, I mean, we're just gonna move it forward, but next week I would hope that we would just try to end the policy. But it does take, well, I don't know, this is a new commission, so I guess it just takes a majority vote here. If we had passed it again this year, then it would take 2/3 to change it. Do you understand what I'm saying? If this commission has passed it and it goes more than 30 days, it takes 2/3 to eliminate a policy or something that's passed. So anyway, for information for next week. Okay, but all those in favor of moving this forward, please raise your hand. Okay, all those opposed, the same sign, motion passes 7-0. Thank you for that. Then that brings us then to review of financials.
Yes, I just had a couple of questions. We did, there was, I think, 7.5 ton or something of gravel over for the pole barn at the LEC. So was that, are they extending a parking lot, extending parking area? Was it a washout? What did they need that for over there?
Was that part of the repair, John?
It was road commission.
I'm sorry.
Road commission, the vendor was road commission, and it was LEC pole barn.
And we'll have to get clarification from Jerry.
Okay.
We'll get back to you now.
All right. And then I was just curious, two things. One, post audit page 9, we had the 7 lakes, basically the DEQ permit to do the cleanup of the ponds. Was it necessary for us to buy a permit from them? Did we have to buy the permit?
What's it for? I'm sorry.
7 lakes, I think it was to clean up work on the milfoil in our pond. But did we have to pull a?
Which, you said it was post audit?
It was in post audit page 9.
Page 9.
Yeah. So I think it must have been approved already, maybe in March, for it to show up.
And those ponds do not have streams going in and out of them, so the DNR, really, they're just private ponds, they're not,
That's why I wonder why we had to pull permits.
yeah, because you don't have to have a fishing license to fish them either.
$93 or something?
So it states on here that the description is, you did have to purchase a permit fee for Veronica Valley for the pond, and it was, Board of Commission approved on 3/16. So that must be part of that with the eradication.
I knew we did the eradication, we included buying a permit, I just said at the time then.
It must have been what was presented as a package. I think you had to apply to be able to take them out.
Well, it might be because of the kind of chemicals he used or something.
Yeah, or if
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
a commercial vendor, he may be
I know
required
that.
to.
Okay. And then I just had one more quick question on page 21, also post audit. We had a Sage Life Technologies. I think it was the senior services. What does Sage Life Technologies give us for a service?
Sage Life Technologies is our free alert or emergency attendance system.
Sage or Safe?
No, that's safe. This is Sage.
It says Sage. Okay, that's why I'm like,
I'm
what?
sorry. That is something else. Sage
Yep.
Life, I believe, is a check-in system for a senior, that they call their home every day to make sure that they're getting up, that they're awake and up. We
Okay.
have a senior that has no connections with anybody, and it was very important that he had something that.
Okay, absolutely. So that's what they do. They call them,
Yes.
call Mary, how you
Yep.
doing? Okay, all right, good, thank you. Glad you were here to answer that.
Yeah.
That was all I had.
All right. Anyone else? All right, then we move on to special reports. If not, we move to public comment. We have, if you wanted to call in, the number's 231-256-8109, 231-256-8109.
April wants to do public comment?
Yeah.
Oh, please, come forward. Sorry, I didn't see you.
The pandemic has brought in a huge awareness to our department and individuals in my circle of the concerns of food insecurity. And so I heard you talking about that, and I wanted to share our experience in food insecurity. We work with a number of seniors for years that have never talked to us about having a lack of food or struggling to get food until the pandemic came along. And it was suddenly okay to say that I'm having trouble. I don't have enough food to eat, or I'm struggling to get to the grocery store. All those things. It suddenly became okay because everybody else was experiencing that at the same time. And so we pretty at a fast rate learned that food insecurity for some meant that they didn't have enough money to purchase food. For some, that meant that they didn't have a way to get to a food pantry. For some, they didn't have a way to pick up groceries. Maybe they had the money, but they didn't have a way for someone to pick those up for them or shop for them. And so I think there is a lot of food that comes into food pantries, and we learned in our collaboration with Leelanau Christian Neighbors that there's a food rescue truck that they go around to different grocery stores and pick up food that's close to being expired, and they bring it to the pantry, and then also they have like dry goods as well that are available. At the end, so their pantry hours are typically 1 day or 2 days, whatever they decide those are for a pantry. And at the end of that time, if there's any food left over, sometimes it does go to where people pick it up and take for pigs or livestock or composting, whatever. But since we began our relationship with Leelanau Christian Neighbors, that is not taking place. There's food that's sorted out that is past its prime, that may go to a farmer, but that may be a bucket or 2 buckets of food. The rest of it is left, and we take that food and give it out to seniors. The food insecurity we're seeing is that seniors do not have a way to get to the food pantry. They are not well, they don't have a ride, and so it's opening our eyes, I think, to a whole new issue that has always been present, that's always been there, but maybe it wasn't comfortable enough to say. So it's been our honor to be able to see that, and I think it's important that I come forward and share those stories of what we are seeing. It breaks our heart when we are able to deliver apples to a senior and they say, oh, I can't afford to buy apples. It was so nice to get those fresh apples this week. Or to have a senior tell us, well, I only get, my income is very low. I only get, maybe $15 in food stamps. So you had coffee. That was a special treat to be able to have coffee. And a lot of our seniors, I think it's hard to judge and say that they didn't do right, they didn't save enough money, they didn't do what they had to do in order to survive at this time. But I think we need to remember that a lot of the seniors I'm serving are widows, typically women who are widows. And during that time period, they didn't work. That wasn't in this area. They worked a farm. They didn't necessarily work, so they don't have that Social Security. And when their spouse died, they're only allowed so much of that. So they oftentimes live on very, very low incomes. So when you talk about food insecurity, I hope that you are careful with how you speak about it. And remember that you can't always view it from your lens. You have to think about it, what it looks like for someone else's. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and other than that, there have been no calls, so we'll move on to any kind of a commissioner comments. Commissioner West.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about the prayer decision, but I am going to make a comment about the finance human resources decision that we made to move forward with that. I know that always can be reversed. The word appalled has been used twice today, so I'm not going to use the word appalled. I'm going to use the word embarrassed on how quickly we were able to decide that we want to do a total reorganization of our county government and create 2 new departments and all of the associated costs. And making it even worse, we didn't even know that it was going to be on the agenda, so we couldn't give some thought. We couldn't do any homework on it. Now, I suspect that 4 people knew it was going to be on the agenda, but that's only a suspicion. So, I'm going to say that we don't deal with major decisions and spring them on this board in a surprising way and say, gotcha. You don't have time to think about this because we're going to put it forward and we're going to cut off conversation and we're just going to do it. And we spent less time talking about whether we create 2 new department heads and 2 new departments than we've done on some $100 purchases that we've questioned in the accounts payable. And to top it all off, we did that not only without us knowing about it coming here, if we really didn't, us knowing it, but the clerk not knowing it. How disrespectful is that? That we are talking about revamping one of our faithful employees and elected official jobs And we don't even know that, let her know that it's on the table. I just can't believe that we do business that way. I cannot believe we do business that way. And I'd like to be proud of being a county commissioner, and I'd like to be proud of my colleagues, but I gotta tell you, the way we make decisions, whether it's about prayer or about finances or about many of the other things, we're playing gotcha all the time. And we're saying if 4 people want it to happen, it's going to happen, period. And we don't wait until we work and see if we can reach consensus on anything. All we see if we can do is if we can get it through, quick and surprise. How irresponsible were we today? How disrespectful we were today about the process of making decisions? How disrespectful we were today to our residents? And how embarrassed should we be about our performance today? Thank you.
Commissioner Eller.
I would like to add that from my experience in the business world, when a structural change was made in an organization, it was preceded by a lot of in-depth exploration. You talk to the employees, you talk to department heads, you see what's really needed, you see if it is needed. You talk as a group and you plan. You don't just come up with an idea and in 15 minutes, talk about top down. We don't work here on a daily basis. I don't believe it's our job to do top-down management like that. And it's very disrespectful of the employees in this building, our employees, our county employees, the people who serve us. I guess I'd like to make a comment. We decided at the end of that meeting on Thursday, Commissioner or Chairman Bunnick, that since we couldn't arrive at a resolution, we would discuss and discuss it at this meeting. So the way you presented it, you presented your motion and it was voted on and there was no discussion at all of any compromise ideas. So I'm wondering why we had that meeting. I think we could have done it in a more inclusive way, in a way that would have included more ideas and in a less divisive way.
You know, you're making all these accusations. How do you know the employees haven't been talked to? How do you know that department heads weren't talked to? You don't know any of that, neither do I. But how do you know?
Can I respond to that? We would see the result of a study.
Just a minute, Commissioner Faulkner had her hand.
Yeah, I'm really quite concerned about the anger I'm feeling coming from the rest of my board. In the first place, I would say be very careful because there's some accusations that are totally off base. And as I said, that person ought to be careful before even throwing them out there, but I'm sure they were thrown out there for a reason. No one was cut off. There was quite a bit of discussion. You can ask the person who put this on the agenda why it wasn't put on ahead of time. I know it's very difficult being a new commissioner and not understanding the full process, or didn't think of it, whatever. I'm more likely to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, but there was quite a bit of discussion. In fact, a lot of that discussion, all of the discussion, was things that made a lot of sense to me. So it was discussion that brought together my vote. This has been talked about in the past a number of times. And, you know, to say that we're disrespectful or unfaithful to a faithful employee, I thought we could not have been clearer today how we appreciate what our employees have done here. More than, as I said, it's superhuman work, superhero type work. But we don't deal with personalities. We've got to look at positions. I thought we made that very clear. So this is a decision for the future. That is why we asked about the start date, which was going to be January 1 of 2022. So this is about serving the community. And I remember not such a long time ago that there was the idea of thrown on us of merging the clerk in the register of deeds with absolutely no warning. But that was okay, I guess, because it was coming from somewhere else. So before anybody gets upset about anything, we have to look at the entire whole picture. I think that, you know, I think that there's going to be a lot to learn. And we'll find that out through budget. I think it's going to be an interesting process. But I've got some phone calls to make this week. As I said earlier, I think that we are, last I knew, the last county to, at least of our size, to have everything under one umbrella. So I'll be making some calls to back that up, but I thought we were very clear, and to just pick and choose comments, I think is very unfair. That's all.
Okay, and we do have a public comment here now. She said there was a long delay in the YouTube, and it just said it to them.
Yeah, she's watching, so just, public comments.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
My name is, thank you for this, by the way. My name is Linda Matowski, and I'm a lifelong resident of Leelanau County. I am a riparian. I live in Bingham Township, but own property in Sutton Bay Township. And I wanted to express that I do appreciate what the Lake Association is trying to do. But I disagree with the commissioners saying that it should only be riparian. If we were to spread the cost out among all county residents, we would be able to do more and impact people less. I have a neighbor who's a cherry farmer who owns property on the lake. He had no crop last year. This is going to hurt him. I'm not able to give the board or anybody carte blanche on my checkbook. We don't know what this is going to cost. We don't know how many years. And I understand that they don't know either. So I really feel like it should be spread out. And to Melinda Lovner's comments, someday Lime Lake and Glen Lake, if we are successful in controlling this weed in Lake Leelanau, I know that as good Christian neighbors, we would share our knowledge with them. But I'd like you to reconsider your resolution, and I'll be watching to see what you do. And thank you again for what you do.
Thank you. If there isn't any other public comment, it's 231-256-8109.
I would like to respond to what Deb said to me.
Well,
Just
yes,
really quick,
I have
just
a-
really
I have
quick.
a- I have a thing to say too, you know.
Well, she
You-
said something to me.
Well, okay, but we take turns here talking and it's my turn. All right, and you said something to me and you talked about, we didn't look at it. How come you had a resolution out there yourself? You said, well, we were going to discuss it here, but you had your own and you wanted to talk about it. How come it's wrong for me to have mine, but it's okay for you to have yours?
No, I was talking about discussing both.
Yeah, okay.
So I would just like to say to Deb, she said, how do you know we haven't talked to people? And I don't know if you said studies, but talk to people. Generally, if that happens, then you share the results and make decisions as a whole based on knowledge that we all have been able to access. You don't just talk individually, we share that and then we make an informed decision. So if it happened, I don't know. And that's not usually the way management decisions are made.
Commissioner Solis Little.
Try to be close to the computer. A couple of things. One, a big thank you to April. I really appreciated her words. And she
It's
gave,
really breaking up. We can't really understand you at all.
Still.
Yeah, Hector, not to move, she's moving
Yeah.
constantly.
hold on a minute, ma'am, I'm low power. If I move some furniture here and get this on back on
Okay.
it.
And if you didn't move around while you're talking, because it gets all blurry, you
Okay.
know?
Is that better? I've got it on a table now. I had to,
Yes.
I was out of juice. Going to end the meeting
Okay.
before. What I said was my thanks to April for expressing her views, because she actually is saying what I think we can do, and that is look at how we can do something positive to help those folks that are identified in the invisible Leelanau. I mean, she made some points, and there's probably some things we can do through senior service programs. So thank you, April. Really appreciate it. The other thing, our meetings are ridiculously long. So what about considering agenda? We can definitely put in all of the donations that are received so that they'll be visible to the public, but we don't have to call people here and talk about them one-on-one. We can just do it as a common thanks. We can put agenda in there. Well, maybe not agenda, but definitely minutes, unless someone has to pull it for a correction. And we definitely could put the review of financials, because that's something we should be doing behind the scenes, not doing here anyway. So if there's something that's major that people need to know about, pull it out, or there could be a listing of the items were questioned by various commissioners before the meeting. So we could approve all of that and would not approve it. Just something for consideration. And let's talk about this at our next meeting. The prayer, I am disappointed we couldn't put congregate members into that. I'll make the same amendment next time and hope that maybe I can make it in a way more understandable. But whether you call them congregate members, I just think we need to try to be open to everyone. What our chairman was trying to accomplish, but with a few wording changes, I think we can do that. And I've said my theory, and it isn't compared to early childhood, Commissioner Lautner. We spent 5 months on early childhood, and commissioners who cared to come to any of the meetings did so, and those commissioners. So go back and compare apples to oranges or apples to apples. But the point is, if you look at it, but to bring this in, and by a new commissioner, and no disrespect to you, Commissioner Robbins, but I know it takes a long time to get the sense of how departments work, how the government works. And I was surprised to see this coming from you. Kudos to you if you have good enough grasp on it time that you've figured out. So I hope that we end this. I mean, this is not something we should be doing. I agree with Commissioner Allgaier. This should have been a study with interviews, definitely clerk's office, and our administrator should have had a chance to talk to departments. This should come from that direction and be brought to us as a policy board, not the way. And I won't belabor this, but just very, and hope that maybe next week we can rectify something.
Oops, thank you. I think she's done.
No,
It looks
didn't.
No, you went blank, so.
There we go. There we go. I think we're having trouble with this particular episode. Okay.
Were you through, or did you want to say something else?
No. I was through. I didn't get rid of myself.
Okay. Was there anyone else? So then we would move on to what is it, amendment and transfers? I don't believe we have any at this time.
Yeah.
And then no miscellaneous transfers, so claims and accounts.
I would recommend approval of claims and accounts, $91,798.87.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
I would recommend approval of post audit, $1,730,304.52.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.